November 2010 in this watershed congressional election, where the Tea Party really and the New Right really put their foot down and was successful. But a lot of people thought that once we got the gains in 2010 that there would be some massive amount of celebration, that this was the turning point for the New Right. In a lot of ways it was, but if you recall, the celebration was almost subdued in some ways. And I think that surprised a lot of people, but it was for a very good reason. The new breed of conservatives, the younger conservatives, the New Right, had remembered the lessons of 1994. We remember the last time we went through something like this, when a new breed of conservative, a new breed of Republican was whisked into Washington upon a lot of promises, and in the final analysis really didn't come through. They really didn't do what they said they were going to do. Now there's a lot of factors for that, but the bottom line is they were not as successful as they promised us they would be. And instead, as the 2000s dawned, the Republican Party drifted more towards a compassionate conservative platform. And George W. Bush and a group of people that thought, well, we can do big government better than the Democrats can. And that was a sticky point for a lot of us during those times. And really we look back at 1994 and we see how easy it can be to use that negative enthusiasm and get elected on it and then ignore it. The new conservatives of this generation were not and are not going to allow that to happen. We were cautiously optimistic. We had our people in, but we wanted to make sure that they were going to follow through. So there was a bit of a wait-and-see attitude after November 2010. We wanted to see specifically what these people who had made so many promises to us were going to do. Were they going to follow through and stand up to the Washington grind? Or were they going to get taken in by the game? Well, in the early going, and of course it's so early right now that you can't make a final analysis of it, but at least in the early going there are some very encouraging signs. Rand Paul out of Kentucky has put some budget ideas out there that really nobody likes, at least nobody in Washington, but he's at least trying to address the major issues. And, there are situations where Chris Christie, as a governor of New Jersey, has done some great things. Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, is doing the Lord's work right now. He is really standing up to the unions and the left and the media. I think he's doing a hell of a job. And yes, people like that, Michelle Bachmann's doing some great things like that too, but people like that are, taking a certain career risk with doing that. But that was always going to be the litmus test for the New Right. We wanted to see if they were going to have the guts, if they were going to have, if you will, the balls to stand up to that career risk and say this is about more than just winning elections and getting elected again and maintaining a voter base. This is about changing the country in the way it needs to be changed and going back to the values we were built on and reconstructing from the 20th century and all the failures that we had during that period of time. And there is a recognition that the Republican Party, as it stood, was a big part of that. And so this is really, the New Right is really not only about a rebranding of America, this is about a rebranding of the Republican Party. This is about making up for some lost time and taking back the last 20 years and putting a new stamp on it. It's a generational shift, I believe. And so if the GOP is to survive, if the Republicans are to survive, then they're going to have to let us drive the bus on this thing. The old school Republicans have failed. Their time is over. They have been a significant part of the problem in this nation. Now don't get me wrong, the Democrats have been the bigger part. You want to give them 2/3 of the blame for the 20th century, that's fine, but you got to give the other third of the blame to the Republican Party the last 20 years, no question about it. And that's why I'm curious with Newt Gingrich getting so close to announcing that he'll be running for the presidency. He's not made that formal announcement yet, but it's coming, I'm sure. And, here's a guy who says the right things, but you know what? I don't trust him, not yet. He's going to have to do a lot of things to convince me and to convince other members of the New Right and the modern conservatives and the Tea Party that he's sincere. Because like it or not, he was the face of 1994. And he had an opportunity. He had the opportunity that we've got now. He had the opportunity to change Washington, to change the Republican Party, and to change this nation, and he failed. Now, it might be unfair to lay all of that at Gingrich's feet. It probably is. But nevertheless, he had that opportunity, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. So you've had your at-bat, Gingrich. And unless you come up with something that just really knocks me off my feet, I think I'm going to be looking somewhere else for a Republican presidential candidate. Because a new day has dawned for the Republican Party. A new day has dawned for America. Common sense, conservatism, Judeo-Christian values, they are what the Republican Party is now about. It's what we should have been about all along, but some in charge wouldn't allow it to be. But rest assured, we're taking over. We're going to save the Republican Party. We're going to save America. And if those in charge of the Republican Party right now, the country club Republicans, know what's good for them, you'll just, as Charlie Sheen would say, find a comfortable chair, sit back in it and watch. Because we are going to save this nation. Until next week, this is America's Evil Genius, signing off.